Hi all, welcome you all to the lecture video session on the project life cycle, which are the phases which we were discussing. In the last lecture video, we discussed about the initial two phases. That is, first one was the initiation phase and the second one was the planning phase. In this lecture video, we are going to discuss the other two phases of the project life cycle. Let's discuss about the implementation phase. During the planning phase, the designing of the project is done and then the necessary estimates have been done, and then the closing or the freezing of the plan with respect to all kind of considerations of the project has been done. Once the planning phase is completed, then objectives are planned, and then the objective and then the planning towards the controlling of the budget, everything is done. Then it goes to the implementation phase, which is nothing but the execution phase. During the execution phase, we are going to implement the project with respect to the plan that is already done, with respect to the time and then the budget which are to be in place. So the project plan is put into action, and then the work of the project is performed here. During this implementation phase, which is the third phase, the implementation phase and then the project plan which is put into the action will see a list of delays as well, with may be anticipated or may not be anticipated. But for this, there should be a plan that is going to parallel plan that is going to see to it that the plan is executed. Objective has to be met at the definite time interval, and then the definite time which states that the particular work which is to be completed in the particular given time. So if the project is performed well and then the budget is in control, then the project would definitely incur the huge profit or the stated profits. So in order to, so it is very important to control and communicate with respect to the planning and then the execution all the time, so that there will be a transparency that is maintained between the teams who are going to execute the plan. So the progress is continuously monitored and observed, and also appropriate adjustment have to be done so that there will not be any cost overrun in the project. So the variances from the main plan have to be observed, and then there should be a necessary plugins that has to come in place, so that the variances whatever that happens have to be recorded. That is the variances that happens from the original plan. So in any project, a project manager spends most of the time in managing everything in this step. So during the project implementation, people carrying out the work and the progress information, they will be reported every time, like maybe with respect to the time to time planning, maybe it is day to day planning or week on planning, and it will be reported to the higher ups every day, so that the repetition work could be avoided, and also necessary time has to be adjusted between the different teams. And also people who are carrying out the work and then the progress information will be able to inform the progress with respect to the original plan immediately, and if there is any variances which has to be taken in serious measures, with serious measures will be taken place, so that there will not be any further delays in the next teams. And the project manager uses this information, the variances information, to maintain the control over the direction of the project, because by comparing the progress reports, there will be a possibility that there could be a chance to avoid the repeated works in the next phases, and the project plan will be able to measure the performance of the project activities and then take the necessary corrective actions. And the first course of the action should always be to bring the project back onto the course, and then there should not be much of a deviation from the original plan that has been laid out, and it has to return to the original plan. So if that cannot happen, then the team should record the variations from the original plan, and they have to publish the modifications of the plan as well. And throughout this stage, the project sponsors and the other key stakeholders should be kept informed about the project's progress, variations that are happening, and also they have to agree to the frequency, and they have to be updated according to the frequency, the changes of the frequencies that are happening. And the status report should always emphasize the anticipated cost and then the real cost that is incurred by the project. so that there will be proper project deliverables that would come into the place. So the each project deliverable produced should be reviewed for the quality assessment, and also it has to be measured against the acceptance criteria. So in this implementation plan, there should not be much of a variation in order to avoid overrun of the cost and then the time delays. Next, we will move on to the fourth phase, which is called as the closing phase. Execution and monitoring have to go hand in hand, and so that there will not be any budget overshoot or the delays in the time. So the closure one will be the closing phase, the last phase of the project life cycle. During this final closure or the completion phase, the emphasis should be given on releasing the final deliverables of the project. So suppose if it is a construction activity, then the last phase would be the deliverable of the constructed project to the clients or to the customers. So if at all it is a different product manufacturing, then the final product that is launched in the market should be the final the closing of the project, or it has to be tested against every possible variations, and then it has to be released to the market. So that is called as the closure of the project. And the project, while handing over the project, the documentation has to be proper and it has to be in place, and the suppliers contracts and documentation of the terminating the suppliers contract have to be in place, and at the same time releasing the project resources, clearing the bills, and then the communicating of the closure of the project, launching of the project, and also it has to be tested against all the necessary standards, quality standards, and also it has to be learned to examine the time tested activities and what went well and then what did not go well, so that they can have feedback, so that it will give the clear picture of what went well and what could be the next what could be the improvement that could be done in the next phases of the project. And communicating the closure of the project to all the stakeholders have to be done once the project is completed in all the by all means in all the in all the phases. So through this type of analysis, what we understand is that the experience of like the wisdom of experience, we call it as, it will be transferred back to the project organization, who will be able to understand that what could give them the better profits, and what could give them the better quality standards, and what could be avoided completely, and what could be moderately avoided, and what should be implemented as a new one, so that it will save the time and then the money, so that it will give the future projects a clear picture that how exactly the next projects could be saved with respect to the overrun or the overrun of the cost, or which could give a better finish as well. So how to identify the project? A better project can be identified with respect to the different ideas. Like how do we identify the best business idea out of all the ideas that are available? There are certain procedures, there are certain ways and then the means to find out which is going to be the best idea. The first step is to identify the ideas and opportunities that comes up as a new business venture. All of a sudden there could be a business idea that could crop up, or that could pop up amidst all the kind of the available ways. Like during the COVID-19 time, there was a huge demand for the healthcare products. All of a sudden there was a huge demand for the sanitizer. So that time, if at all if the business idea of providing the sanitizer with respect to the different quality standards would have given a startup the opportunity to sell the more number of the sanitizer units with respect to the better quality standards. So this way, the methods to identify the business ideas, the best ideas are, first is that we should keep an open eye, and then we should keep on watching the emerging trends that could happen in the market, and we should also bridge the existing market gap. If there would have been the lot of the supply of the sanitizer during the COVID-19 time, there wouldn't have been any problem. But at this point of time, all of a sudden this COVID-19 scenario happened, and because of this, the huge demand of them for the sanitizer came into picture. So because of this, there were many companies who came up and then who produced the sanitizer, and then they made the So conducting market survey for the customer needs is the one more step to find out the best idea. R&D, that is the research and development, and then the technological breakouts, that the breakthroughs that comes up in the market. And also we can identify a better project idea by complementing a product that is imported. And ideas can be additive, like there could be an existing product where another feature which is a very much which is very much time oriented and then the time specific could also be a value added to it, and then there could be an opportunity for the business to step in. And there could be the best way is that identifying not only identifying the idea, but there should also be an entrepreneur should also have the better knowledge of the government policies and then the regulations and then the subsidies, incentives, and then the new measures that have been announced. All these like the entrepreneur has to have. So during the COVID-19 time, there was an announcement of 20,000 crores, 20,000 crores of investment. I mean the relaxation that were given to MSMEs. So during that time, the the entrepreneur who is well known about or well updated about the policies and then the subsidies and then the incentives that were given would have definitely got the benefit out of it. So this is the way how the entrepreneur has to identify the project. And selection of feasible ideas. All ideas cannot be implemented at that point of time. So feasible idea out of all the available idea have to be picked up, and that can give the project. So collection and then the compilation of the ideas and then the relevant data and then the analysis of the best idea would definitely give the idea of the best project for an entrepreneur. So the best way is that identifying the characteristics of each project with respect to the the available raw materials and then the manpower, energy, and then the finance that is available with the entrepreneur, and also the demands, that is it a short-lived demand or is it a long-lived demand or is it the continuous demand that can exist in the market, that has to be identified. And also the costs that are associated with it, that could be the social cost or the commercial cost, and what are the benefits and then the sacrifices that have to be that is made by the society, and the benefits that have been given back to the society, that should also be identified for the with respect to the project. And one more internal and then the external constraint with respect to each project have to be identified, like whether as I said, all the projects cannot be implemented everywhere. So there will be some kind of social and then the internal and then the external constraints that are there, which should be identified. Which are the internal constraints? So internal constraints are unrealistic and then the impractical project ideas could be the internal constraint, and lack of professionalism of the entrepreneur could be one of the internal constraint, and shortage of the resources could be available at one point of time but may not be available continuously. So this could be one of the internal constraint, and may not be able to like the buy the materials continuously, that could be in one of the internal constraint. And over dependence on the outside consultants by the SSIs, like may not be fully aware of the technology that is involved in the project idea, that is one of the internal constraint. Now what are the external constraint? Documentation part of it, like by the financial institutions, and then the compulsory documents that have been done, that has to be done to get the money or to get the finance from the bank, that is one of the external constraint. And government policies and the regulations that could be causing the delays, and there will be the various departments that are involved in developing the MSME. So getting the licenses from each one of the department might be causing the delay, where the opportunity may lose the shine and market share. So adverse reaction by the society towards any new project idea that is coming up in any one area, and that could be the adverse reaction. There could be protests, and this may stop the project though the idea is good. And the other one is the external constraint, could be the recession that may happen, in the economic recession that may happen, and there could be the inflation, and there could be the money value may degrade, and political situation may also one of the factor that is the external constraint. So operating in the area and operating in the country, these are all going to be the hitches or the external constraints that may stop any best project idea to go with it. So in the next lecture video, we will discuss about how to prepare for a project, or what are the preparations that has to be done in order to launch the project. And we will discuss about the project management side, and how well we can we can manage the project with respect to the returns as well as the execution. Thank you everyone for being the part of this project video. Thank you.